Washington Post political reporter James Hohmann is in Washington. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, let's go and start with the White House, or the House Intelligence, I should say, committee asking that the Trump administration provide evidence by today to support the president's claims that former President Obama tapped his phones at Trump Tower. Do you expect anything to come of this request?
I don't. There continues to be heavy pressure on the Justice Department and the FBI. We know from sources that Jim Comey, the FBI director, wanted to put out a strongly worded statement the weekend before last when President Trump made his unsubstantiated claim that Obama had wiretapped Trump Tower to say not true. We don't know why, but the Justice Department stopped him from doing that, perhaps because there's an ongoing FBI investigation into the connections between Trump campaign officials and the Russians. But what we do know is the White House is refusing to give any information. They continue to punt when asked questions about what they know, saying that there should be a congressional investigation. We in the press corps come back and say, well, you said there's proof, that you have proof. So what's the proof? And they declined to give it. So the House Intelligence Committee has set this deadline. I don't expect we'll get anything today. What is interesting and on our radar is next Monday, a week from today, the House Intelligence Committee is having its first open hearing on the Russian interference into the 2016 election. And there could be some new information that comes out publicly during that event.
All right, so James, what happens next?
So we know that there's ongoing investigations. We know Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, has now recused himself after at best misleading Congress about his 2 meetings with the Russian ambassador. Right now, the White House is doing everything it can to change the subject. They don't want to engage. They don't want to go down the rabbit holes, as they say it. President Trump, a reporter was trying to get him to answer what evidence he had during a kind of a brief photo op last Friday. He ignored the reporter. We in the media are going to continue to try and press for answers. And the reality is, Donald Trump apparently has no evidence. All the key people in the intelligence community say that it's just not true. And what we did see on the Sunday shows was John McCain, who obviously has a lot of credibility, the Republican chairman of the Armed Services Committee, saying Trump needs to either put up or shut up. He needs to either retract his allegation if it's untrue or provide evidence that it is. I think that kind of pressure from Republicans may prompt the White House to back off a little bit, or at some point maybe make a statement. But as we know with Donald Trump, there's never a mea culpa. There's never an apology. He only finds something new to attack on.
Put up or shut up, those are strong words there. We mentioned this a little earlier. President Trump will be signing an executive order titled Comprehensive Plan for Reorganizing the Executive Branch. What will this order accomplish?
We're waiting to see the details. The devil's always in the details with something like this. What we know is sort of in the broad outlines what the White House has told us, which is Trump wants to change Washington, that this is part of the broader effort to drain the swamp. But so often with these executive orders, they make a big deal of having Trump sign it in the Oval Office, hold it up before the cameras, and then don't release the actual language until later. And often the language does something very different than what the White House press office tells us it did. So we're very eager to get our hands on the specifics to see what kind of meaningful impact this will have. The last time he signed an executive order like this, it was to give Steve Bannon, his political advisor and chief strategist, a seat on the National Security Council. But when Trump had all of us into the Oval Office to show off the executive order, that's certainly not how they presented it to us.
All right, James, following the executive order on Thursday, President Trump will unveil his budget for the 2018 fiscal year. He is expected to seek a historic contraction of federal workers, and some agencies are reportedly already bracing for the impact. What is reaction on Capitol Hill to these possible cuts?
A lot of Republican members of Congress say that some of these cuts, not all, are dead on arrival. Trump's proposing a massive cut to foreign aid, for example. Republicans like John McCain and Lindsey Graham say not so fast. Other Republicans are super enthusiastic. This is a very conservative budget blueprint. He's calling for massive cuts in discretionary spending to support the build-up 10% increase in the military that he wants. That means big cuts to things like housing and urban development. So there's a lot of conservatives who are very happy about some of the broad strokes that we've seen so far from the White House. And it really does represent a very big shift in spending priorities in Washington.
And finally, you write that with Obamacare repeal, Republicans are trying to accomplish something that's never been done. And you add that Congress has never reversed a major program of social benefits once it has taken effect and reached millions of Americans. So what do you make of this health care fight? And can President Trump and Republicans accomplish what's never been done before?
Well, yeah, it's a super uphill battle. We're seeing now with healthcare, obviously, all of the viewers at home know how hard it's becoming, the resistance we're seeing. We just heard about it in the previous segment. Just because it's never been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. Trump's putting a lot of capital into it, so are the leaders in the House and the Senate. But the reality is Republicans spent 3 decades talking about getting rid of Social Security. They were unable to do so. They spent 20 years talking about trying to get rid of Medicare. Eventually, they gave up because so many people got the program, including their core supporters, that they didn't want to take the political risk of trying to get rid of it anymore. 11 million people have Medicaid now because of the Affordable Care Act, and some of them are very likely to lose it under the current plan that's being considered in the House. And when you consider, those people mobilizing, protesting, potentially voting against Republicans in future elections, you understand why it's just kind of intuitively so hard to take away a benefit people have. A lot of conservatives knew that when the health care law passed in 2010, which is why they felt like this could never get done in the first place. That said, it's never happened before. It doesn't mean it might not happen in the next couple weeks.
All right, we'll all be watching. James Hohmann. Thank you, James.
Thank you.